Are we on? Is this on? I see Jameson's here, and I will get to your question about slopes. If you see me looking up and down, it's because my computer monitor is down here on my laptop, but my camera is on a tripod, and there are two levels here. So I have a few announcements for you before we get to your questions, and maybe what I'm about to tell you will answer a couple questions for you. Today is the last day of the first 3 week scramble. That's what the Huntington staff are calling this, a scramble um, of work that has been sent out or posted in Google Classroom. And it's an unofficial due date, if you will. And some of you guys have been doing great about getting your work done and checking in with me from time to time. And others of you, I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks. That's not to say I haven't emailed or you know try to do things like this where we can interact. But for those that are doing packet work only, um, I, for the most part, probably haven't had a lot of contact with you, which is okay unless you have questions. So, first thing I want to announce to you guys, and let me look at my notes here. Um, with today being an unofficial due date, that means for the last 3 weeks, you guys, my algebra students, you guys have been working on that. It's a like weeks 1 through 20 at the very beginning of the book, uh, or and for the most part, we've had you do them on paper, even if you were looking in the Google Classroom doc, or you could submit your answers on a document to me. Um, I'm gonna go into the middle school today and see which students have already submitted packets. Those of you that have done your work on paper, whether it's scratch paper or whatever. Um, I'm gonna go in today and check my box and see if anyone has submitted that to me yet. And those that have submitted to me through Google Classroom, grades will be going up for that next week. So if you have like some work from me on paper, uh, Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you can drive through Huntington Middle School and drop off work for my class or for any classes so far. I know that my son got a packet today. He's a seventh grader. He got a packet today for the next 3 week section. So if those haven't arrived at your home and you're expecting them, then they will this weekend. Definitely by Monday, I would think, if they're already starting to go out. They're already starting to go out. So it's just a matter of when you're going to get them. Hopefully, you'll have them by Monday so you can start the second 3 week group a little, or right on time, I should say. Hey, Aiden, good to see you. Um, Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 to 2, you can drive through and drop off. Now, on top of that, teachers were supposed to have contacted parents and students in their second period classes this week. Each week we're trying to, reach out to a different class just to make sure, we keep that open line of communication. Now, whether people respond to it or answer their phone or respond to the email or whatever, we can at least say on our end that we're trying to reach out to you guys and check in and answer questions, even if they don't have to do with, like, from my example for math, like I could answer questions like, hey, Mr. Olson's doing this in his classroom. How do I, where do I turn in things at, something like that. But when you guys go to submit things through the Huntington drive-through, that's what we'll call it, the Huntington drive-through, um, Tuesday and Wednesday, you can also request to get items out of your lockers. Now, we're not letting students into the school, but what we will do is if you can say, hey, I need my school supplies out of locker number 146, um, then a custodian can go open it. We'll throw everything in a bag, and we'll get it to you. Again, you're not allowed access into the building, but we can get things for you. Now, if you have stuff in your PE locker, we can get that. If you have a project in, let's say you did a log cabin for Mr. Fromdahl's class, we can grab that for you. So, if there are things in the school that you would like back, lost and found items, hey, I left my jacket there. Can you see if it's there? It's green, it's size, whatever. It has this on it. Make it easy for whoever is going to grab your stuff to identify it quickly. Yeah, so you can pick up things when you drop off your work. And those of you that aren't dropping off any work, you can still come through at those times and request items to be picked up. So again, getting things out of your lockers, PE lockers, any projects. If you have any medication with the school nurse, you're to pick those up at that time as well. This isn't going to be the only time. We will have another turn-in / pickup day at the end of the next 3 weeks. So it would be towards the end of May that we'll do this again. But since students are coming through to drop things off, this would be your first opportunity probably to go and get some things out of your lockers and stuff like that. So keep that in mind and share that with your parents, please. Please. Let's see, what else? So for algebra students, Mrs. Eldred and I agreed that we would be doing, since we're starting quadratics this week, this is new content. This isn't review. Like the bulk of what you had for the last packet was review items, bringing back to the forefront of your memory, refreshing, because we'd had about a 2.5, 3 week period off before we could kind of organize and get things ready for this, new school method of teaching and learning here. But we assigned some review stuff just to kind of bring some things back and have you able to participate. You're going to find every student's going to find things that they remember how to do, and maybe like, oh, with a quick refresh, oh yeah, I remember doing that first semester. I remember doing that, right at the break, or what have you. There were some optional problems as well, weeks 21 through 24 in that packet. That was new content. That was quadratics. That's what we will be getting into over the next 3 weeks. There will be one kind of bulk lesson per week for the next 3 weeks. So there's really three lessons that you'll be asked to do in that time. Because it's new content, Mrs. Eldred and I expect our algebra students to struggle with some of it. But it's important to remember a few things when you're struggling with any subject, and there's not an immediate teacher resource, that can come look over your shoulder and see what you're up to. First, you have the internet, and the internet is wonderful for a lot of things. Depending on the assignment and the class and whatever, you might even be able to find the exact question that you're working on and have it answered for you. Now, that's not really learning. That's, copying or even plagiarizing at its worst. But there are some very good learning resources online that you can immediately go check to, that you don't necessarily need a parent or an older brother or sister or a teacher to necessarily monitor what you're doing. You can give it a shot on your own first. I would definitely look at Study Island. Not only are you going to get some practice problems, but there are tutorials within Study Island that will walk through problems. And I don't, I know some of you don't have a lot of experience on Study Island, but it is a resource, just like Khan Academy is a resource, or YouTube videos are a resource. And all you have to do is type in the subject, specifically, like standard form of a quadratic equation, or how do I graph a quadratic form, or quadratic equation? How do I find the roots using the quadratic formula? Things like that. And you can find a wealth of information, more than you probably need. All that to say is that it is new, and so you probably will struggle with it. Even those that maybe tried to do the extended problems, weeks 21 through 24, on the packet from the last group. Um, if you're able to get it, that's awesome. Volunteer as a resource for your classmates. That would be cool. I am still, of course, checking and able to respond. You know, like I said on our last stream, all Huntington teachers are available from 10 to noon and will be by our laptops or our devices, able to respond quickly to emails, questions. Among my 120, let's see, 100 and I don't know, about 38 students that I have in my classes, I probably wake up to around 50 to 100 emails every day, just with students commenting or submitting assignments or asking questions, or parents likewise. I'm definitely taking that time to get back to students. And I check my emails throughout the day, even not after 10 to 12. So if you have a question in the evening, there's a pretty good chance I'll see it and respond to it, before I go to bed, which is probably later than you think. Um, anyway, if you have questions about the new stuff we're about to start doing on Monday, that's good. You're supposed to ask them, ask other students. Make sure that you get your questions answered in a satisfactory way so that you can keep progressing. Um, what I'm thinking about doing for next week is doing a live stream lesson on the topic for next week. That doesn't, I don't think I'll do it on Monday. I think I'll give you a day or two to maybe take a shot at it on your own first, because some of you will be able to do that, and that's great. Others of you might be able to kind of problem solve your way through it and kind of work it out. Others of you will try to do that and still be stuck, and then that's when I want to intervene and jump in and say, okay, well, here's me instructing a lesson, and here's some example problems, and then maybe you can ask a question through the chat or something like that. And so the live stream will be more of a lesson next week than it will be, here's some information, let's connect. Do you have any questions kind of specifically on a problem, like like we did last week, like we're kind of doing right now? It'll be more lesson driven. And we might even invite Mrs. Eldred's students to join us for that. So, yeah, that's kind of how I see next week going. And again, one kind of big lesson each week for the next 3 weeks. Not just like here's a packet, do it whenever you want to, you got 3 weeks to do it. We're going to try and break it down a little bit more like a class would normally function. Here's a lesson for the week, amongst all your other classes. Let's work on it. Let's try and have our questions answered by the end of the week. And then the week after that, we'll get on to the next lesson and kind of do the same thing for the next 3 weeks. That's my plan. And that's how I think we'll roll here. I see that there are 4 people watching. 2 people have posted. Good to see you guys. And remember to, if if you wouldn't mind sharing that we had this so students can watch later if there's some information you think they might need. Let me see if there's any other announcements to give to you. There still will be an 8th grade awards assembly, but it'll be in the form of a presentation that you can watch either through like a PowerPoint or a YouTube video or some sort of. We're obviously not gathering yet. That's still not been approved, but there still will be an 8th grade awards assembly where they will give out. Students will be recognized in each subject area, and some oh, and some awards will be given, and the Promise Scholarship. Those things will still all happen, but we're not doing it for 6th and 7th grade. We're just doing it for 8th grade. Yeah, so that's still the plan. That would be in June, of course, but oh, I do remember something. When you do the pickup of your locker materials, supplies, articles of clothing, whatever, PE locker projects, when you do that and you are there to drop off things like library books and textbooks and your work for the last 3 weeks, you can also still turn in your pause tickets. Those pause tickets will go right into the end of the year raffle where you'll still have the opportunity to win prizes. So those of you that have your pause tickets still, save them and send them in when you do your pickup and drop off on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week from 10 to 2 p.m. Actually, I think one of those days it's 10 to 6, but I don't remember which one. But they're definitely 10 to 2 on both days. So yeah, if you've got your pause tickets, bring them with. Make sure your name is clearly written on them and legible. And you can, and we'll just put them in. Like I said, Tuesday and Wednesday aren't going to be the only times, but it's your first opportunity. And if you can get them in now, you won't have to worry about it later. Just less to think about or try to keep sorted. Trying to think anything else. This might be a little quicker meet today. I've been getting a lot of questions about grades and how grading is going to work for algebra students since it's a high school class. I have concerned parents, I have concerned students. Your grade for 3rd quarter will fall under the following grades: A, B, C, P, the pass. It is possible to get a no credit for the quarter, or I should say an incomplete. And that would be if a student chose not to do anything over the last 3 weeks, which I would find that to be unlikely given the motivated nature of most 8th grade algebra students. But those are the grades I will be giving for the 4th quarter. Your 3rd quarter grade, it will still be part of the semester grade overall. So, so yes, it will be graded, it will be weighted 50-50 for 3rd and 4th quarter. So your progress or your participation, I should say, that would be a little bit more important than your progress, given how I can't always be there next to you giving you immediate feedback. Yeah, A, B, C, P will be the grades that I'll be giving for the 4th quarter. And then I'll be combining the two with 3rd quarter to give you your semester grade. And remember, your semester grade is the one that matters most between the two, matters more between the two. And yeah, you guys are the only ones that really have to deal with that. I suppose that if there was an advanced science kid taking advanced science, I'm not sure if that's high school credit or not. Um, but yeah, all of your other classes are, your teachers will tell you that you cannot do any worse than what your third quarter grade is. So even if you, in other classes that aren't high school credit classes, like my seventh grade math class, that they will get no worse than their third quarter grade. Now, if they didn't pass third quarter, then well, that's not too many students, so we'll just leave it to them. Um, yeah, but for you guys, your grade fourth quarter will be ABCP, and it's going to largely be based on your participation. You know, are you asking me questions when you have them? Are you submitting the work when it's due? You know, those kinds of things. Um, if you invite me to edit, I know we haven't really had that opportunity with the packet that was sent out to you, but with this next group, you can make your own Google Doc and write your answers on it and share it with me or invite me to look it over, and I will put notes on it, uh, probably in a different colored ink than what you used, and that for the most part has been red for my seventh graders. But yeah, I will respond as quickly as I can. So, um, Jameson, if you're still around, ask me a question about slopes or something a little bit more specific, and I'll try to answer it as best as I can for you. Slopes are a ratio of the rise over run on any sort of line. Um, yeah. So without a little bit more specifics, um, hey, we're up to 5 people now watching. Cool. Good to see you guys. Um, so yeah, if you have a question for me, either shoot me a message, or you can ask it here. I'll sit and hang out for a few more minutes before I do a brief summary, and then I'm going to log off. I'm going to keep this at about a half an hour. So I'll just hang out here until I get a question. My mom just texted me. All right, we got a specific question from Jameson. Let me pull up the assignment. Give me a second here, Jay. Drive is out of date. Okay, that's fine. So as of right now, I see that 10 students have turned in or have submitted. It says that they're done, um, and 21 are still to go, and that's okay. Guys, I want to also make this clear to you too. because when I called this today an unofficial due date, I do mean that. If you don't have your work done today, you can continue to work on it. All right. Really, the due date for all of this stuff is the last day that we do the turn in, which would be in June. Okay. The only thing you don't want to do is because you don't have the structure of school to say, well, for this 50 minutes, I'm doing this. You can kind of do it whenever, which some students, AKA Mr. Lemiere, when he was a younger guy, I would just kind of put it off and put it off and put it off. And then right before it was due, I would try and scramble and get it all done. But then I would often have questions, but a short, if you're trying to get things submitted to me Sunday night when it's due Monday morning on the final due date, there isn't going to be a lot of opportunity for me to go back and forth with you and try and answer questions. So you obviously want to get them done as soon as possible. However, you can still take the weekend. You can still turn it in, at the next turn in group. You just want to make sure it gets done, whatever that means to you. So, Jameson. Okay, and your question. Betty, that day in June is going to be like, I want to say it's around like June 12th, but don't quote me on that. So, Jameson, day 5 of week 13. Okay, let's take a look. Scrolling. Keep them rolling. Okay, day 5, week 13. The linear function. Hey, I'm going to pull up my document camera.
Testing.
Test? No. Okay, good. We're not getting an echo. Edwin, to answer your question, yes, you finished 1 through 20, weeks 1 through 20, and then 21 through 24 added on top. It's what we're going to be starting next week. So if you wanted to look ahead a little bit for an idea of what we'll be getting into, or you want to try it and see if you kind of know it, feel free. But me personally, am primarily looking at weeks 1 through 20. So, Jameson says the linear function. Uh, 3x plus 15. Models the cost of renting X movies over the course of a year from a certain store. What range restrictions will there be if you graph this function? Okay. So if we were to graph this function, and you could do it, if you know the slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b, where b is 5, 10, 15. B is the y-intercept, and the slope is 3, so you'll rise 3, run 1, rise 3, run 1, rise 3, 1, 1. You'd end up getting a line that would kind of resemble this if we're going by 5s on the y-axis. Okay, that's if we were to graph, but that's not what this question is asking. The question is asking what would be the range restrictions. Now, range in functions means the y values that are used. Okay, so if this were a line lines go off indefinitely in both directions. And we would normally say for this line, the range would be, remember, it's our curly bracket opportunity. We would say this is going to keep going, downward. So we would say either, there's two ways you could write it. You could say negative infinity to positive infinity, which was just kind of be the long way to say all real numbers. Oops, forgot my bracket. However, this line does not accurately depict the scenario because we're actually renting movies from a store, which means for every, there are restrictions to this actual scenario that don't necessarily match the graph. And that's primarily because we cannot rent any fewer than 0 movies. We can't rent negative amounts of movies. We can't spend negative amounts of money. There's the idea of debt and everything, but that really doesn't apply in this problem. So, what range restrictions will there be if you graph this function? Now, letter A on the problem says the function has to be greater than or equal to 0. The x values, meaning, this would be the y's. The amount of money you spend depends on the number of movies you rent. So spending would be your y values, movies would be your x values. The function has to, you have to start somewhere. It's not that it can go into negative infinity. So where do you start? Do you start at 15 or do you start at 0? And can it equal 15 or can it equal 0? These are great questions. The linear function since we're talking about the y values, we have to start at 15. So the correct answer for this, because it looks like that there's if we were to like try and figure out what this actually means, $3 per movie with a $15 membership fee. That's how I would interpret this. So it's going to cost you $15 to be a part of the, back when you could rent movies, like a Blockbuster or I guess you still can at the red boxes. But let's say Redbox required a $15 membership fee to, get you started and get you a plan or whatever. And then after that, it was $3 every movie. So we're going to start at 15. Our graph starts right here at 15. So our numbers have to begin at 15 and then go up because that's according to the equation. So the correct answer would be letter B. We have to be greater than or equal to 15. It can equal 15. That just means we haven't rented a movie yet, but we're a part of the plan. And then from there, it's just going to increase from 15. And the numbers are going to be greater than 15. So hopefully that offered a little bit of an explanation under my primitive document camera / box and iPad. Thank you for the question, Jameson. I hope that helped. If any of you guys have another question, we're over the half-hour mark. We're getting to 35 minutes, which is fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. Um, others of you in the chat want to shoot a question? I know that if you are watching the chat on a school loaned Chrome book, which you don't want to turn, if you're using a school loaned Chromebook, you probably don't want to turn that in next Tuesday or Wednesday because you still have more schoolwork to do. You want to turn that in as we get closer to the end of the school year. Cool. Thanks, Jameson. Glad I could help. Um, keep. Oh, if you're watching on the Chromebook, a school Chromebook, YouTube has been unlocked so you can access the videos, but you won't be able to respond. If you recall, in our other stream, students were commenting on their phone and possibly watching on their Chromebooks, and that happened with my seventh graders too. So, um, if you're unable to put a question down, again, just shoot me a message through Google Classroom or something, and I'll answer it as quickly as I can get to it. But if there aren't any other questions, I'll hang out for about 1 more minute. And if there aren't any more questions, then it was good to see you, Jameson, Aiden, Betty, Edwin, and whoever that fifth person is. Yeah, like I said, I'll hang out here for another minute. And if there aren't any questions that I see pop up, I'll see you next week. Another way to explain that would be if you didn't rent any movies, 0 times 3 would be 0. You'd still have the 15. So even if you didn't rent any movies, that 15 would still be there. That's your membership fee. So I don't know, just another way to kind of get around that. Good tip, Jameson. I just logged into the Chromebook with your personal Gmail account instead of the school account, and then you're able to view and post. It's good. Good. I got to tell you, I'm learning stuff every day with this, and my poor seventh graders. I was a lot more involved with Google Classroom with my seventh graders than I was this time around with you guys, and as a result, I made a lot of mistakes. And so there were a few assignments that I just had to delete just because I had screwed up on them. So I guess even though assigning a packet through images in Google Classroom isn't terribly different than just being given a packet, at least I didn't screw that up like I did with some of my seventh grade stuff. Okay, I'm going to shut her down. If I don't talk to you before we do this again next week, then I will talk to you sooner. All right. Get outside, enjoy the weather a little bit. It's nice this weekend, nice today. We'll see you later. Trying to end broadcast. Bye.